Did you know that it's estimated that globally we waste about 1.4 billion tons of food every year? That's billion with a B. And here in the US, where about 80% of my viewers reside, it's estimated that we waste around 40 million tons or 80 billion pounds, that's billion with a B, of food every year, which comes out to about 30 to 40% of our overall food supply and over 200 pounds of waste per person per year. Just gotta let that sink in while I try not to waste my coffee. That's one of the reasons why about once a month I try to challenge my household to use stuff up here in our kitchen so that we can really limit the amount of food that goes to waste. I've actually been doing these kinds of videos for months, if not years now, and I have an entire playlist of pantry challenges or use it up challenges. It's linked in the description box below. You can check it out after this video. But in addition to caring deeply about trying to limit our food waste, I also do this because it's a way to save money on our grocery bill. We're not letting anything go to waste that we've already purchased, which would be a waste of that money that's already spent. And I'm also delaying going to the grocery store by a few days, which usually means that I'm spending less money across the year on groceries. And fewer trips to the grocery store also means less waste of gasoline, which along with food and everything else has gone way up in price. So I thought I would share with you today my latest pantry cooking challenge where I try to use stuff up around my kitchen, but I'm also going to give a few tips and some ideas for you if you have been doing this or if you're just starting out. But before we dive in, since I also mentioned saving money on gasoline, I want to thank today's sponsor, Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anybody who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. And let's face it, that's basically most or all of us. To get started, just visit Google Play or the App Store to download the free Upside app. And when you create an account, don't forget to use my promo code Mindy so that you can get an additional $5 or more cash back when you make your first purchase of $10 or more. I actually just used my Upside app yesterday whenever I was filling up the old minivan with gasoline. I opened up my Upside app and saw that there was a gas rebate at my local Casey's for 20 cents back per gallon. That money accumulates in my Upside app and I can cash out at any time to PayPal or to my bank account, or I can trade it in for gift cards. I've actually been cashing it out about every $10 or so for a Starbucks gift card because that is something that I basically cut out of my budget because of the expense, especially since gasoline is something I'm going to buy anyway, right? And Upside users are earning more than $1 million in cash back each week. That's probably why they have a 4.8 out of 5-star rating on the App Store. Thank you again to Upside for sponsoring today's video. Visit that link in the description box or download the free Upside app from Google Play or the App Store and use my promo code Mindy for an additional $5 cash back when you make your first purchase of $10 or more. Another thing that I try to keep in mind whenever I'm doing some pantry cooking or trying to use stuff up from my kitchen is that not every plate at every meal has to look exactly the same. Sometimes I have little odds and ends of items remaining and it might not be enough for my entire family to have a serving of that thing, but if I have 2 or 3 packages that are like that of various and sundry items, I can actually just prepare them all and everybody can still be fed, but their plate might not look exactly the same as somebody else's. For instance, I made a roast in the Instant Pot, and for those of you who watch my Instant Pot videos, you will be happy to know that I took your advice. I cooked the roast longer in the Instant Pot and it came out perfect. It was nice and tender and I shredded that up as soon as we got home from a swim meet and it was ready for us. But to go along with that, I didn't really have enough of any one starch, but I had some little packages of things from my Green Chef boxes like couscous and rice and just a couple of other little items, a few ears of corn, and I had some lettuce for salads. So what I did was just prepare each little thing and then everybody could make the plate that they wanted. If they wanted to create kind of like a power bowl with like a grain and then with the roast and, you know, some veggies. If they wanted to create a salad with that. My kids actually made some nachos with that, with a little bit of cheese and some of the meat on top. So even though we didn't all have exactly the same thing, everybody was fed, and there were lots of different options, and I managed to use up the ends of little packages of things so that they aren't hanging out in my pantry anymore. I have a graham cracker crust in the pantry, and also I have a container of Cool Whip in the refrigerator. This is actually a dessert that my mom used to make a lot in the summertime, and it was a favorite of ours. It is very simple. I think it just has 5 or 6 ingredients, really easy to throw together. I am using 3 ounces of cream cheese, which is perfect because that's exactly how much I had left of this block of cream cheese that was already open in the refrigerator. So we're gonna use that up. And I am also using half a cup of peanut butter, 1 cup of powdered sugar, and then a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm gonna use my hand mixer to beat those all together, and then I will fold in 8 ounces of Cool Whip. Okay, I wondered why this wasn't coming together for like a creamy batter the way I remember it, but it's been a while since I made it. So I went back and checked my mom's recipe, and it does call for 1/3 of a cup of milk as well. So now that I'm adding this in, the batter should come to the consistency that I need it to be before I fold in the Cool Whip. Once that is mixed together, I'm going to pour it into a graham cracker crust. I am just using a store-bought graham cracker pie crust. You can make one from scratch if you want, but the crust isn't really the star of the show with this pie. It is the nice, cool, refreshing peanut butter filling. Okay, it's been a while since I have made this pie, like maybe a couple of years. And I forgot how good this is. I mean, it tastes kind of like an ice cream pie, but it's not quite as rich. You know, it's a little bit fluffier. So good, so easy. If you're a peanut butter fan, definitely try this. When I am doing a use it up or pantry challenge, I also try to think about rotating my stock. Just because something is non-perishable doesn't mean it should live in my pantry forever. So there are certain items that I like to keep in stock, but sometimes I will take a look at what's been in here for a while and kind of dig around and see if there's something that probably needs to exit my pantry and come up with a way to use it. I made a video about a year ago about a bin that I keep in the bottom of my pantry with some emergency meals. These are items that I can use to make meals in an emergency situation where I might only have a heat source, like a gas stove or a grill or a propane, you know, a camp stove that we could use outside or something like that. Well, some of those items have been in that bin for over a year now, so it was time for me to rotate a few of those out. So one of the nights I actually made one of the meals that I had prepared for that bin. It's one of my aunt's recipes that she always called masta cioli, and it was basically a meal that fed a crowd. But since I wasn't making this in an emergency situation, I actually added some of the fresh ingredients that the original recipe calls for, like ground beef and onions and garlic and cheese. So that was a way for me, you know, to make a meal for my family this week that didn't require me to go out and purchase a whole bunch of things, since I had those fresh ingredients on hand that I needed to use as well. And it allowed me to rotate that out of my pantry so that the next time I go to the store, maybe I can get something else to put in that bin, and those items aren't sitting here collecting dust for months or years on end. We send our 2 little ones to a day camp once a week, so I can have 1 day a week with a quiet kitchen for filming here in the summertime. And I wish that I had thought to get a little footage of what I ended up packing them for their lunch today, because it definitely illustrates one of the things that we need to accept whenever we're doing these kinds of challenges. And it's that sometimes we can't have just what we want, but if we get creative, we can find what we need. I don't really have any sandwich making things here right now. We're out of bread. I don't have any lunch meat anyway. So Brick actually packed a piece of pizza, a couple pieces of fruit, some crackers, and a granola bar. And for McKenna, I actually packed some crackers and cream cheese, which, fun fact, that was actually what I took in my lunch almost every single day of 2nd grade, because for some reason, I did not like sandwiches then. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking, but it is what it is. Or it was what it was, because I started liking sandwiches the year after that. But she had crackers and cream cheese, again, some fruit, a Greek yogurt for protein, and then a granola bar, and maybe a couple of other little small things. Okay, that's actually still really good. But all that's to say, even though it didn't look like a traditional lunch, it still was plenty nourishing. It still had some fruit. It still had some protein. It's definitely going to do the trick when it comes to lunch. And it's using up some items and not making me, run out to the grocery store just so I can buy something that is like a quintessential lunch. And while I am not recommending eating food that you don't like, I mean, we need food to be palatable. Sometimes whenever I'm doing these pantry challenge weeks or I'm trying to avoid going to the grocery store for a few days, it's just about finding something, you know, that we like, that will do the trick, that will stand in the gap for us and give us a nice nourishing meal, even if it's not exactly what we want. So it's like making up a really simple spaghetti or pasta meal that we already have the ingredients for, instead of going out and getting what we really want when it's steak. Although we are actually having steak for dinner tonight. Now, I know that I've said that one of the main ideas with this sort of endeavor is to try to delay going to the grocery store. But sometimes I find myself wanting to use up some stuff around my kitchen, but I know it would be a lot easier if I had just a handful of items. This week, I did make a quick stop by Walmart and pick up some seasonal produce because there's so many good fruits and vegetables that are in season right now that my family really enjoys, that are inexpensive. And I knew it would be really easy to create meals to go alongside this using all the other stuff that I already have in my kitchen. But the spirit of the challenge, even if I'm picking up a handful of items, is still there because there's still lots of things that I'm going to use in place of an entire grocery haul, which will save me money in the long term. So if this is a tack that you need to take in order to start doing this kind of thing, maybe you're out of milk, or maybe you need a dozen eggs, or maybe you need a handful of produce in order to make this challenge work in your household, by all means, I say go for it. Sometimes we have to kick perfection to the curb in order to allow progress to happen. My husband, God bless him, is going to brave the heat and fire up the grill for us tonight. So he's gonna grill up these 2 steaks that came in our last butcher box. We don't do anything special with our steaks. My husband usually just uses salt to season them, and he wraps them in a little bit of plastic wrap and puts them in the fridge for just about 30 minutes or so before he is ready to cook them. And then since we are firing up the grill, I'm just going to do some foil packets for sides. I have some potatoes here. I'm going to slice those up, and I have some zucchini here, and I'm going to put those in 2 separate foil packets because the potatoes take longer to cook. And I'm just going to put a couple of pats of butter in there, maybe some Auntie Nono seasoning, sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top, and that's going to be sides to go along with the steak. We also have salad fixings for my kids who don't care for zucchini, and I will probably slice up some fruit. I have a watermelon in the fridge that I'll probably cut up to go along with tonight's dinner. Since we only have 2 steaks, I'm also going to have him throw these smoked sausages on the grill. These came in an Imperfect box a couple months back. I believe I've had them in the freezer. They are a loaded baked potato sausage with pork, potatoes, cheddar cheese, uncured bacon bits, and chives. I've had some brown rice in my little rice jar for a while that I want to use up, and I measured it out. It was almost exactly 1.5 cups. So I have that here in my Instant Pot or a slow cooker right now because there's a rice cooker setting on it that I'm going to use. And to this, I'm going to add 2 little containers of salsa that are from takeout over the weekend because why not? And I'm also going to add 3 ounces of cream cheese and then about 4.5 cups of water because my water to brown rice ratio is usually 3:1. So I'm going to pop the lid on that, and then I'm going to put it on the high rice setting until the rice is done cooking. I also have some chicken drumsticks left over from a crock pot meal I made a few nights ago. You will have seen that in my summer crock pot video. And I'm going to just debone these. I'm just going to take the meat off the bone, and then when the rice is done cooking, I'm going to stir in the chicken that I took off the bone into the rice mixture. And I'm hoping that that is going to make some really good filling for tacos because I have several packages of open tortillas to use also. And when I restocked my produce today, I thought that I did not have any tomatoes, so I bought a few tomatoes at the store. But when I got home, there were actually 3 or 4 Roma tomatoes already in here. So I chopped those up and also chopped up some red onion, some jalapeno, and then added some lime juice and some salt to make some homemade pico to go along with this meal also. This turned out pretty fantastic if I do say so myself. I added a little bit of fresh lettuce and some queso fresco that I had in the refrigerator. I actually bought that for another recipe and ended up not using it, so this will be a good use for it. I've got my homemade pico and then just some chips and some grapes on the side, and that will be dinner tonight. Yum. Thank you again to Upside for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out their app in Google Play or the App Store and use my code Mindy so you can get that additional cash back whenever you redeem your first purchase. And check out that link to the Pantry cooking playlist in the description box if you want to watch more Use It Up challenges or pick out one of these videos here, and I'll see you there.